say you can hear me, right? شفت الشات. You can hear me and you can see the presentation. Can you hear me and see the presentation? Yes, okay, very good. Okay, I'll just give it a few minutes and then inshallah we will start. I will just give it a few minutes and then inshallah we will start. This class, or this, sorry, class, تعودنا على الكلاسات. This lecture is mainly for people who are interested in making a research in translation studies, or they already have a research in translation studies and they're trying to apply theory or methodology into the study. Also, if you are doing a PhD and you're stuck, you don't know how to apply the theory or come up with a methodology, hopefully this class will help you out, inshallah. Also, there is a probability that maybe if you want to actually proceed your studies and become a PhD student, this class might help you figure out how to actually come up with the idea to have a PhD thesis or a topic, and then to pursue your theory, methodology, and so on. And personally, I believe that the worst part, not the worst as in that it's the worst, but the most difficult part in the theory, or in when it comes down to actually sorry, I'm just admitting people, when it comes down to actually making decision coming to the translation approach, the translation methodology, that's basically the hardest decision you might actually get. Then you have the data, but the most problematic thing is, how do I apply the theory? وشلون اختار الtheory and then I apply it on this data that I have. يعني الداتا ممكن أي مكان أطلعها, and that's easy and done and over with. But the problem is, how do I actually come up with the theory to apply it and على data? And most importantly, okay, I do have a theory, I do have a data, but how do I now analyze it using this theory? فممكن تكون هذه من أصعب الأمور اللي نشوف أن a lot of students, a lot of researchers, even يعني when you have an article, you're not a researcher, you're not a student, but you have an article, you just don't know how to do it. So inshallah today we will learn how we are going to do that طبعا gradually. I believe I said 7 to 9 because I want to do the presentation and give you guys the information in a roughly 1 hour, and then after that we can discuss things and I can take any kind of questions and answers. And probably we'll have one of my colleagues, if he is available. He said he might be able to join us, but because of the time difference, he might not be able to. So we will see about that. He's also a researcher in translation studies. So, and hey, let's go to the beginning, to the first thing that we ever see. أول شيء عندنا when it comes down, if you have any questions, you're free to ask in the chat, لأن حاطة الشات هني so I can see it, or you can simply raise your hand or whatever and ask with the mic. Okay, so عندنا outline. What are we going to take today in Political? Well, أول شيء راح ناخذ اليوم how to choose a topic. So basically, I have a PhD, I need to write a proposal, I need to do a research, and I have no idea what to write, or I have no idea what to say. So, أول شيء, how do we choose the topic? This is really important. A lot of people don't even know how to choose a topic, and when they do, it can be really wide or very general, and they can't really minimize it. Second thing is, how can we choose the right approach based on our data? أنا عندي data معينة. How do I choose the right approach or the right theory? إن والله هذه الثيري ولا هذه الثيري تصلح تضبط مع this type of research and this type of data. And then also how to choose the theory itself. For example, a lot of theories in translation studies. We have so many different theories in translation studies. We have critical discourse analysis, narrative, framing, domestication, foreignization, equivalence, and so on and so forth. How do I choose the right theory to apply it on that particular data, or that particular data that I have, a set of data? How can we choose our methodology, or rather, how can we actually come up with the right methodology? How can we create a better framework for our methodology? And then finally, inshallah, we will do the questions. Okay. Okay. أول شيء, how do we choose the topic? Now, as a PhD researcher, you must know that when you actually want to apply for any kind of a research, or if you want to apply for any university, you would be asked to write a proposal. Yani, once you apply, it's not like the master degree or the bachelor degree. You just fill in the application and then that's it. Khalas, submit, yalla, I'm done. And I'm waiting for the approval or the acceptance letter. No, when it comes down to a PhD thesis or a research, you have to come up with a proposal. شنو يعني proposal? A proposal is where you actually explain your data, explain your methodology, and of course, within time, you can change a little bit of it. ممكن you can change a little bit of the data, ممكن you can change one of the theories that you're using, or how you are actually applying the theory. That's completely fine. However, you need the basis of the PhD thesis. That's why we have always requested proposals for PhD thesis. فعندنا شنو الشيء المهم؟ إن أنا لازم I come up with a PhD proposal. How do I come up with a PhD proposal? Now, here's the important part. You have three main points. You have to do all of them, honestly, and then you can actually think and maybe discuss this with other colleagues and come up with the right idea that you actually can work with. Mind you, when you work with a research, it has to be something related to you. It has to be something that you really like. Why? Then when it comes down to a PhD proposal or a PhD thesis, you will work with this thesis for 4 or 5 years. So you have to like it. Otherwise, it would be really boring and you wouldn't want to do it. And in regards to research, it's something that is asked of you to do on the side of your teaching or on the side as a student. So you also have to like it, and maybe you'll have a chance to actually make it a bigger research, as in a publication, or probably something that you can publish, or is that something you can develop into a PhD thesis or a master thesis. أول نقطة, previous research, and I can never emphasize this important point. I'll tell you something. When I first started my PhD thesis, that was a long time ago, I wanted to have an idea that no one else had. And then I was really bummed. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm never going to have an idea that no one else has. Why? Because العالم كبير جدا. الله أكبر. العالم كبير جدا. And no matter how far you go, you will always find someone who has a similar idea to yours. What is the trick here? The trick is, it can be the same idea, but a different set of data. مثلا, translating Chinese political discourse into English. أنا أخذها into translating, sorry, there is a weird nickname, so I have to just decline the invitation, the admission. So for example, there is someone who is doing, I'm interested in political discourse. There is someone who is doing translating political discourse from Chinese political discourse into English in different media. So what can I do? أنا أقدر أقول, okay, translating Arabic political discourse into different media into English. It's the same idea, but it's completely different outcome. It's completely different research questions. It's completely different approach. ليش؟ ممكن أنا أقول when it comes down to translation of Arabic discourse or political discourse استخدام religion text استخدام religious quotations like لما دائما يدخلون مصطلحات دينية مثلا ولا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى ولا مثلا لما يقولون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على نبينا توكلنا على الله. All of these terms that are religious, how can we translate it into English? However, when we do the Chinese مثلا political discourse ممكن نقول والله احنا نبي ناخذ how is it ideologically or how is it politically framed into different cultures لأن English and Chinese there's a huge different culture. ممكن أخذها من ناحية ثانية إنه والله أنا I want to look at the Arabic grammar and the Arabic phrasing and how is it translated into English into different media. Was it framed or it was very neutral? فهني عندنا as a translator you can choose one topic and look at it from different areas. حلو؟ فهذه the first point, which is basically that you need to check different ideas within the same topic that you have. يعني الحين عندنا قلنا هذه التوبيك ممكن احنا نطبقها على أكثر من one language. Also, another idea is when you have the research that is conducted in the same area, but you can take different aspects from it. يعني مثلا ايش كثر في دراسات بحوث PhD thesis على القرآن. I cannot tell you how many, it's a lot, but they are all different. ليش they are all different? ممكن أنا أقول I want to see and analyze how translation is conducted from Arabic into English of Quran translation in different translations. يعني مثلا comparative. مثلا واحدة backgroundها feminism, and I did that honestly. So I have this research. It's basically translating Quran into English into three different translation, different backgrounds. The background الأولى, someone who is not Muslim, someone who does not speak Arabic, but he studied Arabic. هل أثر هذا? Did it influence their background? Did it influence their translation? The other thing is translation done by someone who's an Arab, who studied Islam and Islamic studies, and who studied also Quranic language. لأن تدرون Quranic discourse is rather different than the Arabic discourse in general. So, and then the last one is when someone is actually a woman and she's a feminist, would that affect her translation as well? Would her background as a feminist affect her translation as well? فهذا بحث completely different than when someone says, I will look into the metaphor and how is it translated in the Quran. شنو صار هني؟ عندنا totally different ideas, right? عندنا totally different methodologies, عندنا totally different research questions and goals and investigations that will be happening in those two different research. فهني عندنا احنا one set of data اللي هي القرآن الكريم. لكن أنا عندي أكثر من طريقة to actually study and analyze and examine translations in regards to this. Another person will say, well, Anna, I want to look at an iltifat in the Quranic translations, all the Quranic translations in the world. Someone will say, La, Anna, I will just compare two different translations and see which one is better. This is also a way of discussing and analyzing and having a PhD thesis. And of course, كل واحد عنده فكرة ممكن تطلع تكون better or different than other ideas. فهني the whole idea with previous research is that when it comes down to your data, when it comes down to choosing a topic, you can choose one topic. يعني لا تقولون أبداً, oh, كل الناس سووا translation of Quran. No, you can actually come up with a study that hasn't been done before. Why? Because you can do something related to, let's say, something, I don't know, something related to translating the Quran in Arabic versus translating the Quran in Chinese. Is it better if you speak two languages? I mean, three languages, translating the Quran in Chinese and English, which one did a better job? You can always come up with an idea that no one has done before, regardless to whether you actually choose a data that has been used before or not, okay? هذا بالنسبة للنقطة الأولى. Now we come to the second point, which is related to reading rather than anything. Recommendation and other research. دائما in all the PhD theses or any research, publications, journals, articles, even sometimes books, you will always find at the last page or the last book or in the book or the last page in a thesis, anywhere, you'll always find a small paragraph or a small يعني 2 paragraphs or a page or 2 about the recommendations. شنو يعني recommendations? Recommendations will be basically to recommend similar research idea or to develop this idea مالت الريسيرش اللي قاعد تقرونه into another research. يعني, for example, in my own research, I analyzed political speeches in the Arab Spring. And I did it in a way that I analyzed multimodality, I analyzed the narrative and framing of what happened during the Arab Spring and the political speeches. So in my recommendation, I recommended that this will be done within different set of data, مثلا, to analyze Trump speeches, to analyze the Sisi speeches within a different framework, within a different methodology. لكن ممكن أنا أقترح اقتراحات إنه okay, let's see how did the idea or the dominant narrative of Trump being a bad and a racist person, and how did that affect the translation in his political speeches? Okay, فهذه totally different idea, different than mine. It has nothing to do with mine, and it actually helps other people and other students and other researchers to actually find a way to do a research. فدايما in the small little chapters or the last little pages in the thesis or the research, you'll always see a recommendation. And we recommend that you do this research within a different methodology, مثلا different approach or different theory, or that you do this research with a different set of data. So this is actually a very helpful approach that I read, and then okay, I have this set of data. I need to come up with a similar methodology على نفس الداتا, ولا I need to come up with a similar approach, but I choose another data. But this is another point that you need to actually regard, because it's really important. A lot of the times you will actually see good recommendations in the research. Lakin maybe you need to actually minimize your readings into something that you're interested in. يعني مثلا إذا I'm really interested in medical translation, so I will read translation of medical terminology, translating COVID-19 terminology, something like that. And then I will see the recommendation. Of course, it will be something related to that area and that discipline. You will not see translating of medical terminology, but then a recommendation, we recommend that you do translating of political discourse. ليش؟ لأن it's two different disciplines. يعني حتى within the translation itself, there are different disciplines. في translating legal text, translating a medical text, translating literary text, which is the novels, the drama, the theater, the TV shows, the movies, and subtitlings, or translating religious text, translating political text. So if you are interested in that discipline, مثلا religious text, أروح أدور thesis related to political text, religious text, and then I see the recommendations. If I'm interested in medical text, then I will do that same thing. مو إن أنا أروح, I'm looking at totally different type of text, and then I say, oh, recommendation ما عجبتني. Of course, because you are looking at a different discipline. At the end of the day, we all have our own taste of text, if I may say. يعني, I know a lot of translators who are really interested in translating literally text, subtitlings, and movies, while on the other hand, I'm really interested in translating religious text, medical text, and political text. I find joy in actually translating these type of texts. I don't really like translating literally text related to drama, theater, and so on. Why? That's my own taste. هذا أنا اللي أحبه. أنا ما أحب أسوي other types of translation. After all, this is really a valid point. Also, because I forgot to shed light on interpreting. Also, interpreting is really important, and it's a whole different field by itself. ممكن we shed light on interpreting as a different idea, or maybe أنا مسوية political translation of the translating of political Arab Spring speeches. You can do it, not the translation of it, but the interpreting of it. فهني هم ممكن هذه تكون a valid point that you can actually change, and then you change the whole data and change the whole analysis. Why? Because analyzing interpreting totally different than analyzing translation. Okay. Last point, something original or contemporary. شلون يعني something original لما تروحون دائما حق, this is one of the tricky points actually. When you go down to any PhD supervisor or any researcher, they will always say, oh, we need something original. Originality doesn't have to mean something no one else did before. You can choose something that is original, translating political text, and then what you do is actually you choose something contemporary. يعني مثلا الحين شنو في؟ الحين if you look all the way back at time, you will see that there was political discourse. مثلا there was analysis of translations of political discourses of Sadat, Jamal Abdel Nasser, who else? Hitler, Churchill, Tony Blair, and also George Bush and Obama. إنزين هذول كلهم throughout time, يعني السادات ما أدري منو يعني throughout time. This is really varied, a versatile period of time. The same idea, I can say, okay, translating political discourses in 2020, Biden, Trump, منو بعد عندنا اليدد اللي مسوينا big fuss شوية. I'm trying to think, I don't know, someone like that, okay? بس إنه شنو عندنا مثلا بايدن, Boris Johnson مال بريطانيا. Those people, or even better, translating political discourse amid COVID-19 pandemic. إن شلون بدأوا الرؤساء يستخدمون مصطلحات طبية أثرت على the way they are actually speaking, and eventually the translators were affected. فهني عندنا نقطة مهمة جدا اللي هي I can take the original idea that existed before, and then it twisted in a way that it would suit the new contemporary era or the new contemporary discussions that is going on. ممكن أنا أقول مثلا translating medical discourse, how medical discourse is hard to translate, and so on. ممكن أنا أسويها إلى translating medical discourse related to COVID-19 pandemic. ولا مثلا translation in the media, especially a special coverage of translating COVID-19 articles, COVID-19 interpreting sessions, and so on. فشنو صار عندي شيء contemporary, يعني شيء جديد أنا حطيته على البحث القديم, بحث original idea that has been shared all over time and different time. But what I did is basically I used a new set of data. Once I used a new set of data, it means basically that I have used a new, or I have I did actually a new research. ليش؟ لأن الداتا تتحكم في الريسيرش. فsince I do have a new data, معناته I have a new research, ولا I have a new original idea. Do we have any questions so far, or we should go to the other slide? Do we have any questions, or should we just go to the other slide? Go to the other slide, I think. Okay, I think we should go to the other. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, now this is really important. الحين شنو قلنا؟ قلنا we already gathered the information. I already have my set of data. I already have a vision of what exactly I'm going to do. Now it's really important to actually do something, as in, okay, I do have my data. I need to understand how am I going to actually analyze this data? Now, this is really important, guys. You have two different types of research. We have quantitative research, which is basically to study the quantity of things. يعني مثلا, you do interviews, وبعدين نقول 70% of the interpreters and the translators believe that this and this and that. Or we have polls, اللي هي مثلا 10% of interpreters interpreted this word into this equivalent, this word was translated to this, and so on. Also number-based إن مثلا أنا أقول استخدمت كلمة slay as in قتل 3 times in Arbery's translation. However, Abdul Halim only used killed and he used it 10 times مثلا, which is what? Number-based. كله قاعد أعطي أرقام. مثلا 10 out of 1 interpreters believe that we shouldn't really intervene in between the text, the speaker and the audience language. So what do we have here? When it comes down to a quantitative study, we have actually numbers that we are going to worry about. We have numbers that we will actually share for the people that we are talking to. We have numbers that we will analyze. Whether these numbers stem from polls, surveys, استبيانات, a corpus that you are doing. شلون a corpus? A corpus based on number of things. إن مثلا, how many times هالكلمة ترجمت صح? How many times هالكلمة ترجمت غلط? How many times those two near synonyms were translated similarly? So all of these things actually, is it not recorded? I thought it's recorded. I thought it's recorded because I clicked on automatically record. Oh, sorry. عاد الحين شلون أنا أعرف if it's recorded or not? Just give me 1 second. Let me see if it's recorded or not. I'm pretty sure I recorded it. No, it's recording. It's recording. Okay. Let's go back to. It actually doesn't say record next to my name, but when I click on it, it says stop recording, which means it's recording. It's so weird because you get used to using a specific type of software. Like I started using for the university, we are using Microsoft Teams. So now I just completely forgot about Zoom. I will record it, inshallah, and I will have it in my YouTube channel. Okay, and there is also, this is just came up to my mind. There is also another talk in my I'll tell you guys what it's called. There is another talk in my channel in YouTube. It's also about researches and how do you research, how do you do researches and stuff like that. It's called, sorry, just give me 1 second. I don't want to forget about it. Yeah, it's called conducting research. It's called conducting research. And this research and this video, I will upload this one, but this one is in general of topics and theories and approaches. However, the conducting research, which is on my YouTube channel, I'll also upload this one. It's basically how do you start your PhD thesis research and how do you write it from step 1 all the way to the referencing. There's also a way of referencing and how do you reference stuff if you need to know how do you do the referencing. Okay, should we go back to this? So now we have the data. عندنا set المعلومات اللي احنا بنستخدمها. how do we choose which type? Now this is completely up to you. No one can really change your mind. No one can tell you what to do. So basically, if you say والله أنا أبي بحث رقمي تعداد معين, so I will count numbers of times, I will do interviews, and even when it comes down to interviews, you can do it both ways. يعني شوف هني qualitative and quantitative. In quantitative, it's related to numbers. يعني 1 out of 10 said they can do it. 5 out of 10 interpreters said they never had any problems. 10 out of 20 times the word was translated correctly. The word was translated wrong 7 times. Using numbers. هذه quantitative method. So basically it's number based, it's interviews, polls, and stuff like that. Now when it comes down to qualitative, اللي هي النوعية. You can't hear me? You can't hear me? Can you hear me, guys? Because someone in the chat said no voice. Okay, Ahmed, I think you need to restart or re-sign in. Okay. Okay. So the qualitative, like I said, when it comes down to qualitative methods, it's totally different. Now you are actually analyzing and examining the data itself. I don't know what seems to be the problem, because they are saying that they can't hear me. Okay, so basically, in a qualitative method, what you do or what you have is you actually have reviews, you actually have text, you actually have recording or مثلا YouTube videos, you have the data that you are going to analyze, that you are going to listen to and examine the set of words, examine the translation, examine grammar, examine words and how they are translated. So like it says here, it's text-based. So the main difference between those two types, quantitative and qualitative, is basically that in quantitative, من quantity, you actually analyze and examine numbers. How many times did this happen? How many out of how many did this happen? When it comes down to qualitative, you are actually studying the quality. You are analyzing the quality. How was it? Was it good enough? Was it bad? Was it? And basically, it's based on analyzing stuff. فممكن you analyze interviews, ممكن you analyze text, you can analyze interviews, you can analyze interpreting, you can analyze the way the interpreting was conducted, you can analyze the way the translation was conducted. You can, Hiba, you have a very nice question. How can we decide the size of the data in the qualitative method? Here comes based on your research. For example, if you are doing a research in an undergraduate degree, مثلا bachelor degree, then it's only, let's say 70 pages, then your data shouldn't be really that much. يعني maybe 1 page will be good enough. But also, again, this can never be answered. Why? لأن ممكن هبة, you will do only 1 page. However, anyone else will do actually 3, 4 pages. Why? ممكن I only analyze metaphor. So there has to be more than 1 page. لأن الميتافور ممكن ما يكون في 1 page, ممكن يكون في scattered all over the text. فممكن 1 page يكون فيها 1, 3, 4 all over. However, ممكن I'm analyzing the translation. Is it good as a translation? And I'm comparing it to another translation. Here, I only need 1 page. لأن I'm analyzing everything: the structure, the grammar, style, the linguistic clearness, and so on. It depends on your approach as well to the text. What exactly are you translating? If you are translating specific things, then you need to enlarge your data, widen it a little bit. But if you are analyzing every little thing and every little detail, لا, I need to make it a little bit smaller علشان أقدر أحلل يعني أحلل كل شيء. مو إنه مثلا أحلل نص الصفحة بعدين باقي الصفحة أقول خلاص أنا وصلت 100 صفحة ما أقدر أكمل. Okay, so this is basically in regards to the data. Your data can actually be changed. For example, when I did my PhD thesis, I had 3 speeches. Muammar Gaddafi, Hosni Mubarak, Abdullah, Ali Saleh, Mal al-Yemen. What happened to me is I realized in the methodology, when I was actually doing the methodology, that no, I can't, because it will be too much. ليش it will be too much? Because I'm analyzing the translation of the Arabic speech in 3 different genres. Subtitling, not subtitling, sorry, transcripts, and interpreting in TVs and in media as in an article, newspaper article. فشنو صار؟ الحين أنا عندي one text analyzed in 3, فالتوتال كم؟ هني 4 وهني 4 8 that I need to analyze. So that was really too much for me. So I reached a decision in the middle of my thesis when I was actually doing the methodology that I'm not going to do it. Although I did go ahead and translate it and interpret it and transcribe Ali Abdullah Saleh's speech, but I figured, خلاص, I need to get rid of it. And now there is too much data. I can't do it. And sometimes you will realize mid of your data that, wait a second, I need to add one more. So it's an exploratory process, basically. When you are doing something, then you will realize whether you need more. You will never be able to say, okay, I need 10 كلمات, I need 10 words. Okay, I'm pretty sure that I'm only going to need 10 words. You will never do that. It never happen. You will need to basically change maybe and add, will delete a little bit of data when you are actually going through it. Why? Because sometimes data changes, your analysis changes. Maybe you'll add a point to the analysis, maybe you will miss a point to the analysis. Okay, let's go to the second point here, which is basically how do we choose the theory now? عندنا theory. How do we choose it? Like I said before, choosing when the new data adds nothing to your research, when the new data adds nothing to your research. Of course, if there is a new data that adds nothing to the research and it's just adding more words, then you can just delete it and add more analysis, because that's way much better than just adding a similar point. It would be redundancy in the PhD thesis or even in research. It will be repeated, so they will tell you you're not adding any new points. Okay, and then I'm choosing the theory now. This is really important because I remember getting a lot of questions in Twitter and in different platforms, to be honest. How do we choose the theory? I'm stuck with the theory. I have the data, but I don't know how to choose the theory. الحين you chose your data, which is the first step. الحين okay, أنا عندي data. Okay, now once you chose the data, now you need to choose the research method. How are you going to analyze this data? For example, أنا مختارة political speech. أنا مختارة a novel. أنا مختارة نص قرآني. How do I analyze it? This is basically up to you, whether you want to analyze it using a quantitative approach or using a qualitative approach. And then you can decide on the theory. مثلا, if you say, I will use a quantitative approach, so I need to analyze كل شيء بالنص, metaphor, narrativity, whether it was domesticated, whether it was close to the culture or not. Fair? Fair enough. Now, how do I choose the theory? أطالع translation studies field. What are the theories that are related to linguistically analyzing the data that I have? والله مثلا, I am doing domestication. ليش? There has to be a reason. One of the most important reasons or questions that you will get in a PhD viva is, why did you choose the theory in particular? Why? والله أنا عندي مثلا نص قصة, story, a novel that I need to translate into English, or that is translated into English, and some of the ideas were deleted. So شنو أسوي? I'm analyzing why these ideas were deleted. شنو الثيري اللي أقدر أطبقها؟ Domestication. It was domesticated, and that's why it was removed, and it's not applicable to the culture, it's not nice. والله أنا عندي political text, نص سياسي. Okay, how do I analyze it? Do I touch upon translation and ideology? فمثلا I don't know if this is, I'll risk it. I don't know if this is a real person or it's a spam or a hacker. Let's see. لأن الاسم غريب بس في شي أرقام. I'm not sure. Okay, I think it's a safe one. Okay, like I said, sorry about that. الحين شنو عندنا؟ قلنا أنا عندي نص سياسي. النصوص السياسية عادة it's really very يعني full of ideological thing. It's usually, it has agenda within it. It has specific power to it. شنو الtheory that is related to analyzing or examining the power and the ideology in the language? Critical discourse analysis. فأنا أخذ critical discourse analysis and I apply it. Was it similarly translated into English وصار في the same empowerment in the text and power and whatever or not? هذه another point. نروح حق نوع أو طريقة أخرى للترجمة. مثلا ترجمة نصوص سياسية in a newspaper, in the press. Then I can use framing. ليش I can use framing? Was it neutrally translated, or it was narrated differently because of a certain dominant narrative that existed during that time or that period of time when the speech or when the article was published? Was it reframed in a specific ideology or in a specific framework that the newspaper believes in, مثلا the Daily Mail, and it had actually changed the text because of that, because of that narrative? So here is how you actually choose your theory. أنا عندي نص سياسي آخذ شيء له علاقة بالسياسة. أنا عندي نص theory مرتبطة بالسياسة. أنا عندي نص literature, then I will choose something related to culture, maybe rewriting, ولا maybe domestication and foreignization, maybe equivalence theory, NIDA, dynamic and formal equivalence. It depends really on my analysis. It depends really on my framework. It depends on my research questions. يعني شنو research questions that I have? You can have one set. ممكن أنا عندي نص سياسي, and then I have different questions. ممكن أنا عندي novel, and then it was analyzed differently. مثلا my research questions are, did the writer or the translator convey the right language and the metaphor in the novel into the English translations? هذه ممكن أنا أسوي critical discourse analysis عليها. ممكن أسوي dynamic and formal equivalence عليها. أروح حق another set of questions, research questions. مثلا were the novel domesticated in a better way to suit the audience or the culture that it was translated to? When the novel was translated, was it translated using domestication or foreignization? Which approach was better? Maybe في comparison. عندي أنا novel مكررة, it translated into English and قصدي into English using a foreignization method. كل الكلمات التابو مثلا انوجدت, أو it was domesticated, everything was deleted, everything that is against the culture, everything that is not considered all right in the culture is considered taboo in the culture was deleted. ممكن أنا أقول شنو in the comparison between the two translations, the domesticated version and the foreignized version, which one stands out? Which one actually rendered the message correctly? Where the domestication approach, did the domestication approach affect or influence the translation outcome? And so on and so forth. شفتوا شلون novel قصدي طريقة واحدة أو approach واحدة أو theory واحدة غيرت طريقة الابروach، غيرت طريقة الثيري، غيرت طريقة الاناليسيس. So when you ask the question and based on your data and your analysis and your research question, you can actually choose the theory. That's why it's really hard when you guys ask me, and I apologize for this. I don't want to be يعني abrupt or mean, but when I say I can't really help you لأن I don't know your data, I don't know your research questions. فمستحيل أنا أقول يعني مستحيل أحد يقول أنا عندي نص سياسي شنو أفضل theory أستخدمها. I can't answer that. Why? Because I don't know شنو النص السياسي. I don't know. ممكن يكون النص السياسي full of ideological jargon. يعني النصوص اللي تكون مثلا مرسي مال مصر brotherhood والاخوان وكذي، فيكون مفعم في المصطلحات الاسلاميه. فانا اقول اوكي احنا نبي نسوي framing وايديولوجي وكريتيكال discourse analysis، لكن ممكن يكون مثلا الغذافي وشلون it was reframed, it was related to the narrative theory، فهني completely different. هذا النص يختلف عن هذا النص، طبيعه هذا النص، the nature of each political discourse, the nature of each discourse, the nature of each speech, of each text is different than the other. So that's why it's really important to actually do it yourself and decide for yourself and be brave. Sometimes you actually do it, بعدين نص analysis, mid of your analysis, you'll say, you know what, it's not working, I have to choose another theory, which is okay. Which is okay. It doesn't mean that you failed. It doesn't mean that you're dumb. It doesn't mean that you're not really doing the right job. It means you actually learned something in the process and you might want to make it better. But it's totally okay. We have all been there. Now, to emphasize this point, when you have a text or when you have a specific when you have a specific text, or when you have a specific genre, or when you have a specific set of data, you need to see how are you going to phrase your research questions. And based on your research questions and data, يعني هذول الاثنين مع بعض, you will be actually able to come up with the right theory that you can apply to the data and the framework that you're having, which is your methodology, and then come up with the right analysis. ليش؟ لأن ممكن your research questions differs than hers, than him, than her, and so on. And each research يعني ممكن تكون الداتا نفسها، لكن تختلف الريسيرش question، تختلف الريسيرش goals، تختلف الanalysis approach and the theory. Why? Because you have a different idea. فهذا really important that you actually يعني look into when you are doing the translation process. I mean the research process. Now, a lot of people find problems in the methodology, and I cannot emphasize how complicated and sometimes rather easy methodology is. شنو الميثودولوجي؟ شنو الميثودولوجي؟ يعني why is it so complicated? When I look at PhD thesis, دائما methodology is the most problematic section in the whole thesis. دائما الناس they start with the methodology and they always say, oh my God, methodology is the hardest. Why is it always the hardest? Why is the methodology really hard? Why is it a problematic? Why can we really not find it easy? شنو مشكلة methodology? Methodology, for me, أنا أنصح كل researchers, especially PhD theses, if you are going to start your PhD, start with the methodology. Why? لأن methodology, it will set the path for you. It paves the path for you to go on a specific يعني journey basically. Why? لأن الميثودولوجي is عبارة عن شنو؟ It's basically your data, your theory and research questions, and how you are applying the theory, الapproach مالتكم على الداتا. And that's what they call methodology. اللي هي how are you using the theory to apply it on the data. Of course, you will have to mention شنو الداتا مالتكم, how did you gather the data, and then what exactly is your approach or your theory, and how are you applying your approach or your theory على الداتا. So this is your framework. شلون أنا أسوي framework؟ I gather my data. والله my data is basically أشعار معينة من العربي ترجمت للغة الإنجليزية لكاتب معين لنفترض. شنو الثيري؟ I need the domestication and foreignization theory by Venuti to see هل الشعر domesticated وصار مفهوم في اللغة الأخرى أو it was foreignized and then it was not really understood and it made no sense. زين. شنو الفريمورك مالي؟ framework مالي that I will apply foreignization and domestication theory على المetaphor, على specific text or specific aspects, rhetorical aspects of the text and features of the text to understand and come up with results whether it was translated correctly or not. شنو صار عندي هني؟ هذه الميثودولوجي مالتي بكل بساطة. So my methodology is basically when I have the data and my research questions plus a theory, اخترت أنا theory, and I come up with a way to actually apply الثيري على الداتا. يعني شلون بطبق الثيري using the theory to analyze the data that I have. أعطيكم مثال ثاني مثلا. If you are using critical discourse analysis, and mind you guys, sometimes because translation studies is a very interdisciplinary field or a discipline, a lot of people use two different theories from different disciplines. يعني مثلا I have used two different theories that are not related to translation studies in translation studies. You can use مثلا multimodality, which is media and communication, and add to it critical discourse analysis, which is linguistics and sociolinguistics, and then added to narrativity and framing in translation. فأنا هني I need to explain my framework وإن شلون أنا بستخدم هذول الثيري كلهم combined to actually analyze the data. وشنو بالضبط الداتا؟ يعني ممكن أنا أقول والله my data is the Arab Spring speeches of حسني مبارك. إنزين. في مليون speech, في 15 minutes of each speech, you're going to analyze all the speech or what exactly? So ممكن أنا أقول I'm analyzing, here's an example. I'm using critical discourse analysis to analyze the amount of times the pronouns where actually the pronoun I and the pronoun we has been mentioned in the speech. To understand the ideological background of Hosni Mubarak, or the amount of power in this speech and the amount of power he had on his audience. فهني أنا قاعدة أعطي الريدر الماب, the guidance of how am I going to analyze the text using the approach and the data. أي data بالضبط, أي part of the theory, لأن أحيانا الثيري تكون كبيرة. Another example is if you are using narrative theory for Mona Baker. Wallah, I am using only selective appropriation to see how the narrative of Muammar al-Gaddafi being a dictator and a mad dog of the Arab Spring or the Middle East, and how during that time the dominant narrative was to actually allow the NATO to come into Libya. So we need to portray al-Gaddafi in the worst picture possible. فبستخدم selective appropriation. شنو يعني selective appropriation؟ يعني أنا كنيوزبيبر آخذ الخطاب واختار منه نقاط معينة to portray. For example, أنا آخذ كل النقاط السوداء من الخطاب السياسي لشخص معين. Why? To make them sound worse than they are. So here I am choosing a specific feature, لأن narrativity فيها أكثر من one feature, فيها أكثر من one type, but I'm only choosing one feature and applying that feature على الخطاب because this is my framework. So this is, in short, the methodology. Basically, you have الطريقة إن أنا عندي طريقة معينة، data معينة، عندي theory معينة, and then I apply the theory, specific parts of the theory on a specific part of the data to actually create or initiate my framework. Clear? We move on. لأن أدري الميثودولوجي أصعب part, so I need to make this clear. Is it clear? We're almost by the end of the, I think this is the end or not, I'm not sure. Yes. So basically that's all I wanted to say about it. And I told you guys I added one whole hour because I wanted to do a discussion, or I wanted to actually see if you guys feel like discussing this or you want to know more about this. If you need to ask specific questions. But before I go ahead and take questions, I would like to say that if you see this book, it's called Research Methodologies in Translation Studies by Gabriela Sandana and I forgot what, Brian. It's available online, actually. A PDF copy of it is available online if you feel like getting that copy. It's very useful. It will tell you all these details that we took here, we discussed here, in details. It will actually give you ideas of how to apply different theories in translation studies على text that you have. So it's really useful for people who are doing research in translation studies. Just have it as a reference if you would like. And it's really, really very, very useful as a resource of information for translation studies and methodology. Of course, this lecture or tiny lecture will be also available online for anyone who is interested. It will be available in my channel on YouTube. And now, of course, it's my email is asma.alduhaim@hotmail.co.uk. Okay, I'll be taking any questions now. So if you don't have any questions, I don't know. Regarding the research framework, should it be mentioned in the introduction chapter, literature review and methodology? This is what I have been told by supervisor. Okay, so Abir, in the introduction is basically to introduce the reader of your research. إن أنا عندي الريسيرش مالي هذه introduction مالته, a little tiny piece of information, and then you will have your research questions. You will have your research division. شلون؟ يعني مثلا chapter 1 will discuss this, chapter 2 will discuss this, chapter 3 will discuss that. In the literature review, you basically let the reader know about your data. يعني مثلا, if your research is about Quran, you need to tell the reader a little bit about the Quran in the literature review. And also the theories that you are using. So basically, the background مال الثيري مالتك. If you are talking about the Arab Spring, for example, you need to discuss this in the literature review. That's why you leave it till the end, the literature review, and it's usually a short chapter, a small chapter. It only discusses specific things, and these things are really related to the data that you have and the background of it. مثلا, if you are discussing شخص معين مثلا Trump, you give a little bit of the background about them. If you are doing مثلا a comparison between Fox News and CNN, then you will give شوية details and background information on this channel and this channel. You can also discuss things, you're very welcome, Rowan. You can also discuss things related to, for example, the ideology in translation studies. إن شلون ideology can be manifested. How can people actually translate literature, the history of translation of Quran, and so on. These things can be actually added in the literature review. In the methodology ماكو أي شيء لا علاقة في literature. In the methodology you go right ahead to خلاص تكونين انت او تكون انت شارح already عن theory, شارح already عن literature review. So basically in the methodology you will go right ahead and say والله هذه الداتا مالتي, how did I gather the data? يعني even if you say my data is the Arab Spring speeches, okay, how did you collect it? Is it available online? Is it available on a YouTube? And so on. And then you can say, well, the sources are available on this place. I gathered my information or my data from here. I will be analyzing مثلا only from minute 1 to minute 3 مثلا. And then you discuss how are you going to do it على the framework with the theory and so on. Okay. Any questions? Any other questions? Feel free to discuss anything you want to discuss either by the mic or if you want to discuss it through the chat. I don't mind either. I'm here to answer any questions now. Use me. You're very welcome, Hiba. You're very welcome. And good luck to all of you. I know sometimes it's really hard to do a research or conduct your research, especially maybe now amid Corona, but hopefully you can actually do a good job, inshallah. You're very welcome, Wasa. How to find good research articles related to Slander studies. Say, when you want to, okay, so basically what you can do is go to Google and then write down مثلا انت you want translation and ideology. You can say translation and ideology PDF. Once you write PDF, you will actually get resources and articles in that regard. You can check the articles online and يعني اللي موجودين online. You will find a lot of amazing articles in research gate in academia, and they are actually open access. You can also check the books bar لأن في جوجل في videos, images and so on. آخر شيء أسماء ألدهيم .co.uk. Because I was based in the UK. Okay. تحطين books, so you will get actually books and articles and journals. It's also important to look at the journal that you are actually taking the book or the article from, because sometimes it's not really that good. يعني sometimes it's a very badly written. Sometimes it's just a Wikipedia style. Sometimes it's just a seminar. It's not really a book or an article, so you need to be aware of the resources that you are actually taking your references from.
Hi, Doctor.
Hi. Hi,
How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah.
Doctor, I have a question. الحين نحن we know إنه we can use more than one theory while translating, صح؟ حتى even when while writing we can use more than one, and it depends on the topic, الجانرا والtopic.
Yeah.
But the question is, can we use part of the theory, and even if we're gonna use more than one theory, يعني مثلا equivalence, can we use one part of the theory, not all of the theory?
Of course, yeah, of course you can. I personally actually say that if you are using more than one theory, then you can actually use half of the theory or only one part of the theory, because sometimes only part of the theory is applicable to your study, not all of it. يعني مثلا narrative theory في جزء من الثيري متعلق في how you actually narrate the story. إنه you have to tell or interpret the event يعني من A to Z the way the person said it. This is not really related to my aspect of the translation or my research or my data. So you only take one part, which is the selective appropriation. إن أنا أختار كلمات معينة من اللي قلتيها وأترجمها، أختار sentences معينة وأترجمها. So basically this is actually choosing a specific part of the theory, because that's only the part of the theory that is applicable to my study. فما له داعي أنا أنغصب إن أنا يعني I have to actually use all the theory. I can just use يعني a little bit of it here, a little bit of it here, and that's it. I don't have to use all of it, and that's totally fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Abdullah يقول, can you think of a way to apply translation theories to the teaching of English as a second language? I'm looking for ideas to use in ASL teaching research for my PhD. So basically, you need a translation theory to apply for English as a second language. I think domestication would be a fair point, because a lot of the times we actually domesticate ideas or domesticate language and examples to make it better for those who wants to understand it. That's why they always say when you are teaching people from another background, it's really important that you actually relate to their background so they can understand it. So that's why a lot of people choose to have people teaching who are actually in the culture itself rather than bringing them from another culture and ما راح يفهمون how to relate themselves to the culture. So maybe domestication can actually work. Not pretty sure, but maybe domesticating the language. I'm trying to see if my colleague is able to come or not. Thank you. Would you please upload the recording of the lecture? Inshallah, I will do that. I will definitely do that. I will definitely do that. Do we have any other questions? I'm just waiting for my colleague to see if he's coming or not. If not, I can.
That's it. I have another question صراحة.
قولي.
الحين الثيوريز translation theories يعني they get updated طول الوقت صح؟
Of course, but recently, يعني the recent theories are related to mixing theories within the translation studies, to be honest. بس
طب نحن كيف نقدر مثلا يعني how can I find the new theories أو is there a book في كل الثيوريز مع بعض يعني من أول ما بلشوا translation مثلا إلين مثلا 10 years ago أو شيء هيك ولا should I work on googling everything يعني؟
Okay, so
يعني في source واحد ولا؟
Okay, شوفي أول شيء there is a book called Introducing Translation Studies by Jeremy Monday. It has a very big amount of theories يعني يعطيك الثيوريز كلها من أول لآخر, and also by Lawrence Venuti, the Translation Studies reader. It even tells you من هالسنة لهالسنة من هالسنة لهالسنة. I have both soft copies. If you want, you can reach out and I'll send you. I know your email and everything. I'll send you both copies. I have them on soft copies. Now, both of those books have been published يعني a while ago, more recent in مثلا 2020. The recent translation studies theory is Mona Baker's narrative theory. That's one of the most recent ones. Beside the combination of different theories, like including multimodality in translation theory. Abir, you can reach out to my email or send me your email on Twitter and I can send you the copies. So you can actually keep an eye on Routledge Encyclopedia for Translation. Routledge always have a translation studies encyclopedia تطلع بين فترة وفترة تجمع الثيوريز الجديدة. Usually theories, new theories will be developed in conferences and seminars and so on and so forth. Unfortunately بالفترة الأخيرة it was very hard because of Corona, وبعدين طلعت نظريات معينة and people were really concerned of these theories. But overall, you can always Google the translation studies field. راح تطلع لك and keep an eye on the seminars. دائما بالseminars, بالconferences, بالlectures, أي theory جديدة تم مناقشتها في هذه الأماكن. Keep an eye on translation societies. They will always mention new translation theories. لأن أحيانا يكون في translation theory جديدة لكن it's not really that much يعني used, or it just dies away. People just brush it away because it's not really important or used. فدائما you need to keep an eye on Google, translation conferences, translation books. يعني مثلا الراوتلج دائما تنشر كتب جديدة في الترجمة. So you need to keep an eye on it. Also, Twitter is a very important platform for translators. Add Mona Baker. Add Hanem al-Farahati, add people who are really interested, add James Dickens, add those people who have يعني a big chunk of information about translation theory. They will always يعني discuss these things. وإذا صار في translation theory جديدة, they will always retweet about it or tweet about it or discuss it or even يعني hint about it. So this is one of the platforms that you actually need to يعني keep an eye on. خصوصا التويتر لأن they're active, to be honest. يعني مثلا منى بيكر is very active, هانم فرحاتي is very active, James Dickens not very much. He's amazing but he's not really active on Twitter. But conferences, unfortunately now ما في وايد conferences because of Corona. Maybe you can see if they have conferences online or something like that. هذا roughly يعني, to be honest, how you can keep up with translation studies. Another question?
Thank you.
You're welcome. تفضل يا روان.
شكرا دكتورة، يعطيك العافية. أولا آسفة
حبيبتي.
كثير مرات بزعجك بأسئلتي.
لا عادي حبيبتي، لا عادي.
الله يسعدك. بس بدي أسأل هلا، أنا واحدة من الترجمات اللي أنا بدي أشتغل عليها لرواية واحدة هي بشكل سمري، ولكن كمان بقلبها في أبيات شعرية. فأنا على الأغلب اللي بدي أعمله بدي أمشي على نظرية الإيكوفالنس وبعديها أمشي على CDA عشان الايديولوجي اللي جواتها. فهل هدول التنتين ما بيتعارضوا مع بعض؟ لانه انا اللي لاحظته انه مرات كان المترجم يعمل overall يعني بدور على overall meaning وبعدين بيترجم. مرات كان بياخذ few sentences and he renders them يعني in a way from English into Arabic. فسو انا يعني شايفه بان الايكوفالنس هي اقرب شيء للموضوع، وبعديها عشان الايديولوجي عشان اقدر اعمل تريسنج لها ممكن اعمل critical discourse analysis. هل بتأيدي هذا الشيء او لا؟ كونها summary translation, it's not a full translation.
Okay, I totally agree with you, and it's different when you have يعني full translation and when you have شو اسمها summary translation.
Summary.
So what you can do is definitely go for the equivalence. يعني ليش؟ لأن you want to see, for example, when you see Mona Baker's or Naida's formal and dynamic equivalence, هي إن you actually rendered the meaning regardless. You can also add rewriting theory. هني ممكن تسوي comparison, rewriting theory for cultural turn for Leverett، لأن هي فيها إن rewriting literature. هذول theories وايد لهم علاقة بالliterature. That sometimes as a translator, when I'm translating literature, I need to rewrite to actually convey the meaning and render the meaning, because when I compile the same sentence into the same structure and style in the original language, it will not really make any sense. So the author or the translator has to rewrite. Also, بالنسبة to critical discourse analysis, of course, it's one of the theories that you have to go for if you are going to investigate the ideological يعني scheme in the language and whether there are something related to ideology and هني أنت ممكن تحللين النص وبعدين تنقين whether ideology or you want to do, I mean, يعني critical discourse analysis, ideology and power, or you want to do the domestication and foreignization. لأن ممكن تضبط أن did they actually change the ideological aspect؟ مثلا كلام تابو بالعربية سواء يعني scenes related to sex or anything like that وانشالت تماما it was domesticated or مثلا لا والله it's مثلا related to God and it was domesticated in a way إنه بدال الرب مثلا نقول الله، بدال مثلا مسيحي وكنيسة نقول مثلا مسلم ومسيد. Is it that way so you can actually use domestication ولا لا it's embedded between the language يعني between the lines؟ مثلا ما أعرف مثال صراحة حاليا بالليترشر لكن ممكن مثال بالpolitical discourse راح يفيدك إن لما يقولون مثلا إحنا ما علينا من برا، ما علينا من برا، ما علينا من إيحاءات الدول الأجنبية، خصوصا الإيحاءات الدول الأجنبية دائما يقصد بها الايديولوجي المعينة اللي تتبع الثقافات الأمريكية والبريطانية بحد ذاتها، ما يقصدون كوريا، ما يقصدون الصين، ما يقصدون روسيا، دائما فتكون هذه embedded within the language you are targeting or attacking the American culture. فهني يصلح لها أكثر critical discourse analysis. But this is really up to you when you are analyzing the text. تشوفين هل ideology actually there on the يعني موجودة بشكل واضح وصريح في النص وممكن تكون بسيطة فأقدر أستخدم critical discourse analysis ولا لا هي والله يعني the translator completely domesticated the text, rewrote the whole thing لأن completely a taboo in the culture فاستخدمت نظرية domestication. It's better to use domestication. بعدين في شغلة مهمة, when you are using rewriting you can also link it to domestication. ليش؟ لأن rewriting تربط شوي مع domestication in a way that you are rewriting because you are domesticating the source text in a way.
Okay. Thank you so much. But is there any specific model if I want to choose the domestication one or the rewriting one?
لا شوفي, there is no models لأن usually the models are created by people who are actually analyzing the text or they are initiating the process. So what you can do is you can Google thesis, PhD thesis that they are doing exactly the same analysis or they are analyzing within a similar framework and you can see their model and then maybe come up with ideas similar to their model.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. لا فيها دوت أسماء دوت ألدحيم بعدين دقيقة I will write the right email here shortly. Give me 1 second. Let me just rewrite it. Asmaa and then dot alduhaim@hotmail.co.uk. And if you can, you can simply talk to me in Twitter and I can discuss this further with you or just send you my email. Do we have any other questions? Do we have any other questions? No?
Yes, please, Doctor. If there's no one I want to ask.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. By all means, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, in addition to this summary translation, I have two full translations for the same novel. And actually, all of them are very old. Like the first one is, the summary one is in 1886. And then the two other full translations were in the first one 1938 and the other one 1970 something, 74. So my question, because you have mentioned this actually, is it fine? And I think, is this okay to use different theories for each translation according to what I see in the content of this translation?
If you are doing it in the same research, it would be difficult. لأن you will be asked, why did you choose? It's not fair to choose different ways of analyzing different translations. يعني مثلا you can't say والله أنا بحلل هذا النص بهذه الثيري وبحلل هذا النص بهذه الثيري, because you will have two different research.
Okay.
What you can do is you can compare the two using one theory. You can compare both translations. إن هذه ترجمة قديمة وهذه ترجمة حديثة. Were they any noticeable differences? Yeah. Because of, you know, over time, globalization, using more resources, or the background of the translator? Were there any differences? Because that one is old and that one is new. Were there any differences with the translation? Were the new translation better than the old translation? And you can use the same theory in that regard. Best in you use two different translations and then two different theories. ممكن يصير في question mark in that. How can you even link that? It's not linkable.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Habibti. You're welcome. You're very welcome, Al-Fawzan. Inshallah. Thank you for your attention. You're very welcome, Abdullah. If you have any other questions, I'm here. If not, I can think we can conclude this session. I just want to make sure that everyone here has their opportunity to ask. Any questions? No? Okay, then. I think we should conclude this. It was really nice to see you guys again. I know I remember some names from all the way back in last April, because we had this lockdown before and we did a session of different lectures online. It was really fun. I actually enjoy it because I can see a lot of people from different backgrounds, from different parts of the world, and that's really good. يعطيكم العافية. Inshallah, we can do more of these things online, and hopefully I will come to see you guys one day, wherever you guys are, in a real conference. Inshallah, يعطيكم العافية, and inshallah I will see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.